everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first time, you're welcome. This is Essential Patience and I am Patience. In today's video, we are continuing our discussion on credit score. I think so far I have like 2 or 3 videos on credit scores, how to build your credit score as a young person, a credit card's evil. So check them out if you haven't already. But today we're going to be talking about, do you need a credit score? How does it help you if you have one, and if you have a good one especially? So remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So let's get straight into it. Do you need a credit score? The long and short answer is no. You don't need a credit score. And I'm not sure about the credit system in other countries, but in the United States, I can definitely say that it is possible to go through life without a credit score. Now, is it the easiest? Does it have some implications? Are there times where it would be easier to have a credit score? Yes, but there is no law stating that you have to have a credit score. If you don't already know what a credit score is, it is basically a way of telling lenders or informing lenders if you're a good person to lend money to. So if you're going for a mortgage, they may ask you for your credit score because they want to know how likely are you to pay back this mortgage and to be consistent with it, not missing payments. Also, if you're going for a credit card, what do your other credit cards look like? Do you have a huge balance? Are you paying it back? What has your history been with other loans? How are you paying them back? Have your car been repossessed? Have you ever filed for bankruptcy? Because I think bankruptcy stays on your credit score for about 7 years. So all of this, whilst private information, becomes, I guess, public to the company that you would allow to view your credit worthiness to see if you can qualify for a loan. And these loans, again, are very different. And even sometimes just something as easy as renting an apartment, trying to buy a car, buy a house. So let's go through this list that I have of 10 things that you should know about the credit score system, that even though you don't need it, it could help. So number 1, again, is that it is not bad not to have a credit score. Some people who inherited a house, bought a car in cash, went to school without student loan debt. What do you need a credit score for, right? It's everything. If you're paying in cash and you're able to afford it, because that's a big thing about affordability, then you would not need a credit score. People like Dave Ramsey have taught people for many years how to live without a credit score. And for some people, it's working just fine. Have there been people who have complained about certain things? Yes. But there are people who have been able to cancel their credit cards, close all the accounts on there, and just watch their credit score just be non-existent and still be able to go through life paying for everything in cash. So for the second thing I'm going to talk about on this is how it may not be ideal if you don't have a rental history. Because when I was trying to apply for my apartment, they asked for a credit score. I've never rented a place ever before, and if I didn't have that, they were not going to rent it to me, and I would need a guarantor. So basically, a lot of places you would need a guarantor if you don't have a credit score. If you don't have a good credit score, you would need somebody to guarantee your rent. And especially when it goes to competitive cities and it is apartment season, which is basically between like May and August, a lot of time it can become very competitive between applicants. And apartments have all these applicants who are looking to rent the exact same unit. They have come down to 2 people. They all make similar amounts of money, both good candidates, but one has a credit score and the other one doesn't, and the other one has a good credit score. There's no reason why they would take the risk of renting to the person without a credit score versus the person who has a good credit score. Why would they do that? There's assurance there that this person has a history of paying their bills, or at least, making the minimum payments, being consistent. Of course, there are places that would rent you an apartment without a credit score. That's not every place. I've heard people talk about how they could not get apartment units no matter how much money they made because they didn't have a credit score. By how much money they made, I'm not talking about making millions of dollars. I'm talking about like the average American being able to make 3-4 times the rent. They still wouldn't rent to you because you don't have a credit score. Number 3 is that if you don't have a credit score, you might be subjected to high deposits. So even if they would rent to you, they might still ask you to do first month's rent, second month's rent, and another security deposit. And this is huge because imagine if your rent is like $1,500. You're gonna come up with over $4,500 just to move into an apartment. But say you just finished college, or you're just moving to a new place and you don't have that much in savings, $4,500 is a lot for a lot of people to come up with, especially if you're moving and you still have to come up with moving costs, the transportation, paying off your other apartment to come to live in your new apartment. It can just be a bit much. It costs already a lot to move, no matter where from and to come up with 3 months of rent is a lot. And if you live in cities like New York City and Boston, you would also have to pay a broker's fee. You would pay 10 to 15% of your rent upfront again to a broker. So not only are you paying first month's rent, let's say it's $2,000 because it's New York, $2,000 for first month's rent, $2,000 for last month's rent, $2,000 other deposit, and another, I don't know, $2,000 for broker's fees. So already $8,000. It's probably going to be about $10,000 when you consider all the other moving costs. It's a lot of money. If you don't have a credit score, you might be subjected to a lot of money up front. But that's not a bad thing if you have the cash. Most people just don't have it. So number 4 is to emphasize that you may not always get your pick in apartments. If you don't have a credit score, which it does take a while to build, what's going to happen is that you're not going to have your choice in apartments. You might be subjected to go wherever they accept you versus actually having the opportunity to pick the apartments that you want. That may even be a better deal. So some apartments may be like, okay, you can rent, but instead you're paying more because you don't have a credit score for a place that you didn't want to live anyway, versus having the opportunity to rent at a nicer apartment that probably costs just as much. Maybe this is just hypothetical, but because you don't have a credit score, they don't accept applicants without a credit score, you're just not getting in. So I think it just gives you more options to have a credit score versus not, because when it comes to apartment hunting, it's a big deal, and you're gonna sign a lease most likely for 12 to 15 months. It should be a place that you at least want to live for that long. Number 5 is how it might be challenging to get a mortgage. A lot of times banks would look for your credit worthiness. Again, are there banks that may not look at that? Yes. How close are they to you? What other fees do they charge? They may not look at your credit score to give you a bank loan, but who knows, maybe they're charging an extra $5,000 to waive that requirement. It just becomes harder to do a lot of things versus if you had a good credit score, you would qualify for mortgage at practically any bank. So you don't have to subject yourself into limited options because you don't have a credit score, a good credit score. So having that option to pick the best bank with the best rates that you get along with will provide you the best service. I think it's one of the good things that come with having a good credit score. Number 6 is how hard it would be trying to finance a loan. Now, if you have a good credit score and you have a good history with a lot of loans and just payments overall, you might be able to get a good interest rate, especially now that interest rates are high. I just bought a car and I got a pretty good interest rate because of several factors. But if you're able to get a good interest rate and a good financing deal, it makes everything so much easier because the process alone is already exhausting. A lot of time you may not qualify for a loan or a good interest loan because you don't have one to buy your car. Now that you have to go financing, you might have to go just above and beyond, just doing so much just to finance a car, because they need to know that you're going to be making those monthly payments on time and in full. And if you don't, your car is going to get repossessed, but more likely than not, you're not going to get the loan anyway. This is something that is a barrier to you. And another option might be just paying in cash. And again, if you have cash to pay for the car in total, then you have no problem to worry about. Then that's literally it. It's good. You're fine. If you have the cash to pay for everything up front, then you don't need to worry about it. You don't need a credit score. But if you don't have the cash, or you just plan on financing it for whatever reason, then you will be subjected to having to provide a credit score. And if you don't, it's going to bring on a whole new challenge. Number 7 is getting a personal loan. So this is another thing. I'm not a big fan of loans and debt overall, but I do understand that it's a big part of America's get auto loans, car loans, student loans. It just might be harder to get a personal loan if you need it. Personal loans tend to have a high interest anyway, depending on your situation, how likely you think you are to pay it, and the relationship you have with the bank. If you need a personal loan, you're probably gonna have to provide a credit score. It just factors into your interest rate. If you don't need it, you wouldn't have to show any credit score, right? Because you wouldn't need a loan. But if you do need it, in order to get a good interest rate, in order to be approved for that loan in the first place, you need a good credit score. Number 8 is a running theme I've been listening to these, which is that if you don't have a credit score, or if you don't have a good credit score, you can be subjected to really high interest rates, especially when it comes to auto loans and mortgages. as well as other things. Those two are huge. If you really want to check this out, go on a mortgage rate calculator and just do a sample of this. Put in the cost of a house, down payments and everything, and then put in your credit score, because it normally will ask what your credit score is, and play with it. And you would see that people with credit scores over 700 and even 800, even the best, they are getting better interest rates than people who are lower. And sometimes if you have lower, you probably wouldn't even get it. But even with auto loans, if you don't have a good credit score, you'll be subjected to some really high interest. So for me, what I'm doing is that making sure that I don't take out loans when I don't need it. It really might pay off for buying assets such as a house, because a house is an asset and it's one of the biggest components to people becoming everyday millionaires. Their house is one of their biggest assets. Number 9 is something that is less talked about, but I experienced this when I was applying for jobs, which is that some jobs ask about your financial history. And so they want to see your credit score. They want to know how much debt you have. They want to know if you've defaulted on any loans. They want to know your financial situation, because the job deals with certain things, financial sectors, and they want to make sure that you can be responsible and you will not, I guess, get desperate enough to steal from them. Like, I'm broke, so I'm trying to get a job, but then the job wouldn't hire me because I'm broke. But it's a thing. Why I always encourage people paying off debts and being debt free, because you might just miss out on an opportunity because you just have a ton of debt. Number 10 is a personal opinion, which I think no credit score is better than a horrible credit score. Because if you have no credit score, at least it means that you don't have credit card debts. At least it's not your name, so there's no open accounts. You don't have any auto loan debt. You don't have student loan debt, because all those things open up a credit score for you. If you don't have any credit score at all, again, not ideal, depending on what part of your life you're in and what your financial situation looks like. I think it's definitely better than having a bad credit score. They can look at other things. Maybe you already have a house and they can look at your payments. Maybe you already bought a lot of things cash. You seem to be doing good financially. You can provide financial records to show that you're in good standing. But when you have a bad credit score and a lot of things stay on your record for many years, especially bankruptcy, like I said, 7 years, it just doesn't make you look like a good candidate. It makes you look financially irresponsible. So my thing is that, do you need a credit score to live in the United States, to live a happy life that is full of joy and happiness, everything nice and spice, blah, 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 blah? No, you don't. But it sure does help for a lot of us who don't have a huge trust fund and they're just a bunch of cash just laying around to pay for everything that we need. So that's all I have to say, and thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and let me know in the comment section, do you have a credit score? Are you a person that's just looking into it? And what do you think about my opinion that no credit score is better than a bad credit score? Remember to ring the notification bell, because I post 2 videos a week, and come on over because we're gonna have a nice discussion. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.